Child, ain't nothing worse than a party drunk. Y'all, let's get into this newest episode of Ready to Love, Make a Move. I know, Question Crew. It's been a long time. I should have left you without a dope groove to step to. Anyway, y'all, let's get back into Ready to Love. And so we are back at the beginning of breaking down Ashley's whole issue with confidence. I told you on the last episode, Ashley had an issue with that lady just looking good. It didn't have as much to do with that because Stormy wasn't really hitting on Kirsten. She was trying to find out if his brother was fine. But it's clear that Ashley had an insecurity issue. And I talked about this in the last episode. And many of y'all commented below about the fact that her insecurity was just showing through. And it's not the first time we saw it. And Tamika, her Ayanla, honey, she was like, not on my watch. We're going to address this issue you have with the fact that other women can also look good in your presence and you not feel reduced. And I said this before, that whole Aisha Curry syndrome, homie. I'm so glad that she touched on that situation and got Ashley to face the fact that really her issue with Stormy, although I will say Stormy, we kind of cleared up that Stormy did ask questions. That Ashley's issue was that Stormy also looked nice. And that was the same issue she brought up with that guy at the ice cream shop after the bike ride when he couldn't remember, what dress she wore, not because she wasn't memorable, but because her and Zadia was sitting right next to them and each other and they met for like 2 seconds. And so Tamika basically points out, like, look, girl, you have to know that you're enough even when you walk into a room with another woman that's fly. And many women say that they understand that and they know that, but they don't really practice that. You see that a lot in like club situations and going out situations sometimes. Honey, I have seen it on vacation situations. When a woman who is maybe a little bit more just naturally, she's a glam girl or she's naturally that girl that dresses up or puts it together all the time. And sometimes being around a woman that's not like that, sometimes being around a woman that is, mainly when it's an aspirational thing for the other woman, shows up. And to me, that's where Ashley's issue came in at. And that's why she started spazzing out and going to the producers, because it just didn't make sense that she was going off on Stormy because Stormy really wasn't hitting on Kirsten. And Ashley's charisma is so dope. So I don't know why she didn't let that shine through. But Tamika nicked that in the bud and said, look, girl, get yourself a scene together. Ashley said that she would work on herself and that's what she promised the girl she would do. And she's glad that they addressed it. She wants to get through that because it's something that has plagued her in this process. And we've seen how it's shown up in a multitude of ways. So I'm glad that they addressed it head on. So, child, Tamika done finished counseling Ashley from the ledge of insecurity, honey. And she is back onto the mode of the game, which is make a move. And so she has told the ladies that, take any advice of your friends, of these visitors, honey. Take in whatever Camille and told Zadia to do. And essentially go ahead and get dressed because your keeper and the guy you just went on a date with are going to come back to the house and they are going to do a rundown to see who should be the person. And y'all are going to decide again who you should keep and who you should not keep. So everybody's like, okay, let me head upstairs and get dressed, honey. Everybody's running upstairs to get their things together. And the men show up in the house, some in questionable outfits, some in, regular clothes. It just depends. I know that, Zadia's man, Cameron's going to come in that, Young Money chain. And so he shows up first. And Tamika has a little chit chat with him on the side and says, are you somebody who could really give Zadia the time that she needs? In conversation again. Why she keep cornering Cameron? I never really got that because she did the same thing when she asked him about matching the clothes. I don't know what that situation is. So she said, do you think that you can give Zadia the time that she needs? Are you too busy for the relationship? Because that's something that came up when Camille was speaking with her. And he says, that is something that he has to work on because he is a very busy person and he needs to really evaluate whether or not he has the time to be in a relationship. So they get dressed, come downstairs, they see their keepers, and they see their new guys. So we start off with Ashley and Kirsten first. And Ashley basically apologizes to Kirsten kind of for the spaz out she had with the producers when she got mad about Stormy Child. And so then she says the whole scenario about whether or not, he understands why she did it. Now, here's the thing. I understand she had to apologize, and I think it was good that she gave him somewhat of an explanation. I hated that she went so deeply rooted into her insecurity so early on in seeing and dating this man. This is not something I would advise anybody to do. Not that anybody's looking for my relationship advice, but honey, but I would not. I feel like what the insecurity issues that Ashley has, she needed to work on them internally. Like she could have just, ended that with a sentence, but the way she talked about her self-worth in front of him, it was so clear to me that that could be a mistake in a level of vulnerability so early on in a situation. It's a lot for somebody to take in that you may have serious insecurity issues. Nobody wants to date somebody who's super insecure. Nobody wants to try to have to raise you up in your security about who you are. And that could really run somebody off. And I think that those were more internal lessons that she needed to work on. I think she could have gave him a simple explanation and left it at that. But honey, Ashley, she felt like she had to open up the whole diary, child. So she gave her Alicia Keys song and then she moved on. I feel like Kirsten gave me that he's the type of guy that would actually use that against her, but that's just me. They move on to Venetia and Jabari, honey. And Venetia has gone on with Tabari on a date, Freckleface. And she is trying to figure out whether she's going to keep Jabari, who she's been rolling with since the beginning, honey, similar to Joelle. And I think the insecurity of how she dealt with Joelle is really creeping up in this moment for her. Her and Jabari sync. They go together like peaches and cream, honey, except for the fact that Jabari is a guy who's a little bit more structured than Venetia is. And Venetia still want to be out in the club and at all the events all across Houston, honey. And she's not sure if Jabari would meld with her lifestyle. And Liz has advised her that, you need to be with somebody who's equally yoked because it will come up. And I do think her lifestyle is something that she does need to address with him. But I feel like this is an issue that really could be worked out. More than likely, at the end of this process, they're not going to be like together like glue because he lives in another state. So the reality is that they're going to have more time to really discuss how this should look. And I think they need to give that pacing its place because I do think that they're a really, really good match for each other. And I think Jabari is a better match for her than Tabari. I have told y'all this from my last episode. I know I'm not wrong about this. Tabari is a liar. I do not know this man. I do not know the situation, but everything about how he was talking to her, when he mentioned the 85 jobs that he had, go back to my last review. That man kept looking up and rolling his eyes up today because he was trying to fake his answers. He had too many weird conflicting jobs that didn't make sense, that didn't go together for somebody to be highly successful as an entrepreneur. You manage one thing, but then you own a whole nother entity. It's just something wasn't right about that. And I know that he's not being honest about his life trajectory. He's just trying to impress her. Whereas I feel like Jabari's very clear about who he is and what he has been and where he is now in his life and his path forward. And to me, they match more of Venetia's path forward with the exception of the lifestyle situation. And I also wonder, with Venetia saying all of these things about being a boss and wanting to get her stuff together, how much are you willing to give up to this man? And not up to this man, but up for your relationship in terms of what's not going to stunt your growth. As an entrepreneur, do you have to go to every event in town? Do you have to go to every friend's supportive event? Usually when you get into a relationship, you will have to learn how to adjust your life, similar to when you have kids or similar when you're in, college, or you get your first job or you move to a new city. You're going to have to adjust things about your life to make things work. So I can't imagine why this couldn't work out. So we head over to Camille and Zadia on the couch. She's talking to Mom Top and she's having a conversation about, how she likes him. This part with him and Zadia was kind of unnecessary. We knew she was going to pick him. This, pull out of, whether or not he has enough time for her. Zadia, you're not going nowhere. The last guy was clearly almost, he looked like he could be her little brother. He was trying to guess her age at the table because she told him to. That's how distantly apart these two people did not match. So she basically said she's going to keep Cameron. Girl, we knew all along. Ashley has kept Kirsten and, well, no, I don't. And we haven't made a decision just yet on Jabari and Venetia, but it's clear that Venetia may be going a different way. And I'm like, why? Okay, child, so we back at the dramatic determination from Venetia, and she is in tears, honey. She is breaking down because Venetia genuinely felt for Jabari, but it is clear that Jabari is not going to be kept after tonight, honey. She said that she just feels like their lifestyles might be going in two different directions, and she doesn't know if it's going to be too much of a shift for them. She starts crying really hard. Jabari's hugging her, and she says, I really hate this, and I kind of hate that I'm making this decision because I really feel like I made a friend and I really feel like I made a connection with this man. And I love that because I love that they had such a strong connection that she feels, some sort of uncomfortableness with just letting him go. I do think Jabari is her person unless they introduce her to somebody else because it damn sure ain't Tabari, honey. But Venetia's emotional. Jabari says cool. He says, I don't get it because I feel like, I've been myself the whole time. I think he's a solid dude, like he said. And he said, but he's respecting her decision that she has to go out and meet other people. I absolutely think that we will see Jabari again because I just really do not feel like Tabari is it. And unless they give Venetia somebody else, honey, her other matches have been trash. So we move on to Ashley talking to Kirsten and wanting to take him into the kitchen, honey. When I tell you everything about Kirsten is Drake future energy, if you know, you know. So all I'm saying is everything about that is Drake future energy. He's here for a good time, honey, not a long time at all. But Ashley has got the blinders on 10 times fold, and I don't understand this. I feel like she just gets into men who are attractive, and maybe the insecurities that she has when a man that is attractive is showing her some attention, giving her some time, even if it's not the correct amount of time or the correct amount of respect, whatever, she's willing to take it. I think she's definitely physically attracted to him, and I think he's to her. So that's not an issue here. The issue is seriousness, and Ashley wants that, and Kirsten is clearly not here for that. Everything about his energy gives very much like, I will sleep with you, I will absolutely kick it and have fun with you, and it gives early energy of toxicity. Okay, so Ashley appears to be caring less and less about that. She's physically attracted to him. They have this conversation about absolutely nothing. He says he's interested in pursuing it, but really, your boy is here. And that's all he cares about. He made it to round 3. So then we move on to Sharice and the barber, honey. And this was kind of sad to me. We don't know that much about Mizelle, her dance date that she was on from the last episode. But Sharice is saying that for her, Keith and her have to end their journey here. I really hate that they're ending their journey, maybe because Keith is just not traveled enough. I also wonder if she's concerned that he won't spend money on her, because she loved that about Eric Adams, honey, and he was horrible. So Sharice ends up telling Keith that although she loves where he is mentally and where he is emotionally as far as working on himself and where he is in his life and working through the things that have not helped him to get to the successful place in relationships that he wants, she just doesn't see them being a match. And she ultimately says that, she's ready to let him go. And Keith says he thinks that the breakdown happened exactly when we knew it did. And when we saw it did was when he kind of said that he wasn't open to doing a lot of other things. And don't get me wrong, your lifestyles have to match up. So I understand Sharice's reservation. I wish she just would have gave him a little bit more of a chance. She says she loved her dance date with Mizelle, so I guess she's moving forward in that capacity. And it is what it is. I feel like Sharice could have gave him another chance. I would have loved to see it, but you have to follow your heart. And I think that's another thing is, part of this show was about these women sort of making decisions that are hard and that aren't always easy. She walks Keith to the door. He says no hard feelings. I respect that she has to make the decision she has to make. And we move on to Tamika in that Temptations coat with the feathers and the bedazzled white cream, trying to find out what happened with these women in these days. So child, we back to these blind dates, because Tamika gonna keep hooking them up with men on men on men on men, and I love to see it. So we have Zadia going out with Darius. Darius is 31, he's a photographer, and Zadia looks very, very cute. I love the little striped outfit and different hair. Honey, we don't know who we gonna get anytime, any place, anywhere. Zadia is gonna be a different girl every single time that she show up on the scene, honey. So Zadia is sitting, waiting, and of course, I've always said, throughout this entire season so far, that I just feel like Zadia is zoned in on Cameron, and she admits that pretty much every guy is now trying to meet his standard. And it kind of makes it unfair to whether or not she'll really get to know anybody, because I think she ends up giving the blind dates a hard time because she's so tuned into him. And it just kind of feels weird. Zadia essentially says that she doesn't want to mess with Tamika's time or disrespect the people that she's picked out for her, but ultimately Zadia doesn't really take any of these guys in. So Darius shows up, honey, and he is light bright, not in skin tone, but just an outfit with a pair of cool glasses on. He gives me Martin vibes for some reason. He sits down. He lets her know he's a photographer. She says, okay. He also lets her know that he works in respiratory care, critical care at an ICU. And she basically says, well, I'm already dealing with somebody who's medical and a photographer. At least she tells that to us. So it's not really impressive that he doesn't match up to that. I think he's also not tall enough for her. And she says that she wants somebody that doesn't exactly match. She doesn't want a dupe of what she already has. I do want to know what Tamika's criteria is for someone that she hooks these women up with. She starts to have a conversation with Darius about what he's looking for in a woman. And Darius tells her, he's looking for somebody who's, honest and very, forthcoming. He's looking for a woman who is like a good-natured person, and specifically somebody that's respectful. And Zadia says, well, you don't want loyalty? And he's like, well, I think that would come with that. And she's like, not necessarily. They're not hand in hand. And he says, okay, well, then let me add loyalty to the box. And she says, what do you mean by wanting somebody with respect? She says, you want somebody like, that will respect you and listen to what you say. He said, no, I just mean somebody who like carries himself with a level of respect. Like, for instance, they're respectful to like the wait staff and things like that. So he explains it a little bit more, but it's clear that Zadia is shut down from the beginning because she's only locked into Cameron. I keep saying this. I think these dates are a waste of time and honestly a waste of Tamika's resources, because Zadia is locked in with Cameron, and the only way that that's going to stop is if he messes up, which he may do later on after this time, or doesn't meet some expectation. But every guy is having to meet that bar, which is one of the reasons for the keeper. But I also wonder how well it's helping her to make a decision, because she's doing what Venetia did with Joelle. Next up is Sharice, and Sharice is going out with Danzy. He's 44. He is sweating, and he works in pharmaceutical sales, honey. And he starts off with the classic joke of, I sell drugs. And we get it. But he honestly says that he sells drugs in relationship to rare diseases. He is not an actual drug dealer. But I couldn't tell because he was sweating a whole lot. So I was wondering if he was in love with the cocoa, honey. So him and Sharice sit down. She likes his style. Nice little restaurant. They're having a chit chat. He asked her what she likes to do. She says she likes to travel. She likes to exercise. He says, okay, traveling. Where you like to go? What's one place that you haven't been that you would like to be? And Sharice says she would love to go to Greece, honey. So would I. It's one place I haven't been. It's several places I haven't been, but Greece is one of those on the list. She says she might be going to go to Mykonos or to Crete, or he asked her one of those two. And she says, yes, she would love to go to Mykonos. I mean, it's the standard. And she's happy that he's well traveled. I'm not sure that he's well traveled. Everything about him on this date and even further down in the episode definitely gave me he's great at sales. And there's a reason he's successful. He says this is his dream job, is what he's always wanted to do. He's locked in. He's got his dream house. And, he's confident. He just wants somebody to share it with. Sharice loves that he's confident. She says she can see that. She's also confident. And she doesn't want somebody who's going to compete with her. She wants somebody who's going to compliment her. I hear that, honey. So Danzy is sweating like a mother. And child, I don't know if it's the nola heat again or the nose candy. I don't know if he got a little bit of sniff before he came out there, because the New Orleans heat will really, really get to you. And it's showing all up over his face and his skin. And I was just feeling so bad for him. I was like, somebody get him some water. So we move on to the next blind date that Tamika has hooked up. And she has hooked up our girl, Ashley. And she's talking about our girl, Ashley, with a guy named Kenneth. Kenneth is 35, so he's around Ashley's age. He doesn't have any kids. And of course, we had to make sure that there's not going to be an episode where there's not somebody from the NOLA education system, honey. And sure enough, Kenneth is a high school principal. And, he has a straight New Orleans accent, no hair, no kids. He has like locks in his hair, like a little bit of wild locks. It's giving Chris Brown mixed with Basquiat. He's talking with Ashley. They're having good conversation. Ashley again says she's a jack of all trades. We still don't know what she does for a living. It's starting to get questionable. And I don't understand how anybody is not marking down, like, what do you do to actually make money? And they have great conversation, but then she asked him, let's get down to the nitty gritty. When was the last time you were in a serious relationship? He said, it's going to sound wow, but it's been 10 years. It's been a full decade, y'all. And she said, well, if you've not been in serious relationships, what have you been doing? He said, I've just been in a bunch of situationships. Of course, this is a red flag for Ashley. She doesn't want the baggage of situationships. She already left the last man for that same reason. I do wonder, however, with Ashley, Alex was a long time ago. So my question is, when was her last relationship? Because the premise of her being on the show is that she had a deal with Alex and they didn't link up, and they linked up, but it didn't work out. But since Alex, who was Ashley dating and for how long? We don't really know as much about her history, but she seems to be judging the guys on theirs. I understand the situationships because that means that he hasn't been in a serious relationship in a long time, and that can be an issue. But the last guy, I really wanted to know more of his story because they think they actually got along, and she already cut him off because he was only about 3 months out of a 3-year relationship. But we didn't know more about why that was. So I would have liked to see more. It's clear Ashley's already ending that situation once she realized, look, it's been way too long for him not to be in something. And I can agree with this situation. Like, why haven't you had any serious relationships for a decade? Then we moved on to Venetia. Venetia is going out with Kentrell. Kentrell is 39. He is a high school social worker and an assistant basketball player. And he has 2 kids, shared custody, very into the community, but he is nervous as hell, and it is showing up everywhere. He is also sweating down beads. Again, it's the NOLA situation, but he is also anxiety ridden about a blind date and about this situation. Maybe just in social situations, honey, because he is sweating like a mug. And Venetia notices that, but he holds great conversation. He has, great things to talk about dealing with the community and why he's into his job. I love to see it. He is giving Carmelo Anthony mixed with Terrence Howard. That's what I'm getting from this situation. And he starts having conversations with Venetia about relationships and where she stands on, her goals for them and how she sees, herself in the process. He asked her, does she have any green flags? She said, green flags? What you mean? Don't you mean red flags? And he says, no. I mean green flags. Red flags are so easy. What are your green flags? What are your pluses with people? I really liked him for that. So I really enjoyed seeing different types of men with these women. The only people I came out really liking was Cantrell. And I also came out liking Ashley's date, but I don't think she likes him. Now we're back with Ashley and Zadia, honey, and they are talking about Kirsten while Zadia is getting ready for her birthday party. Tamika done promised her this big rooftop to do, and she is trying to figure out what wig she gonna wear, who she gonna show up as next. So Ashley is talking to her about the fact that she likes Kirsten. They've gotten back on the same page, but she is worried about dating her stereotypes. She does not like the fact that she kind of picks the same guy all the time, and she's worried that she's not keeping her options open for something different. Kirsten is the stereotype of what she normally dates, attractive, but just not into her. And Zadia is also kind of not feeling Kirsten. She likes the fact that she found out that Ashley has been communicating with Don consistently, and she digs Don. She tells Ashley she should invite him to her birthday party because she would love to bring in her birthday with Don. They went on a double date, and I think the guys got along, so I think she likes that part about him, and I think she likes Don a lot more for Ashley, as do I. And Ashley says yes, her and Don have great chemistry, and she has invited him, but she did also invite Kirsten. So Zadia is like, good girl, all of that is fine, but I want no drama at my party. So fast forward to the party, and we are on the rooftop. Everybody is dressed really, really cute. All the ladies look fantastic. Bernicia has invited Tabari and Cantrell. Sharice has invited Mizell. He's the only one that bought a gift, child. And Sharice also invited Danzy, but he showed up with no gift, but all of the ability to drink in every part of liquid courage throughout the night. Cantrell shows up sweating like a mug, per usual. Tabari brings, all of his ridiculous energy to the event. Tabari is doing extra. So Venetia's sitting in the corner. She's talking to Cantrell, getting to know him. She really, really likes him. She loves their conversation. She really is pleased with how he is, but he is super nervous and he is sweating like he was in front of the cops. It was crazy. He is sweating like somebody who was on the first 48. I did not understand why somebody didn't get this man a handkerchief or a napkin or something. When you sweat like that, you need to constantly keep something with you, like a little prayer cloth or something. So in the middle of that, Tabari wants his presence to be shown, and he shows up with a plate of food for Bernicia. It's like, hey, girl, here's some little, mac and cheese, some mashed potatoes, whatever, and hands it to her. Bernicia says that although she's enjoying Cantrell's conversation, Tabari is letting his presence be known, and she's really enjoying that. I do not see what she sees in him, because everything about him gives circus clown energy, and everything about him gives a complete liar. So, but Venetia is falling in, and honestly, I just really miss Jabari at this point because I just don't see it for either one of these guys, even though I like Cantrell over Tabari. And they're having conversation, and Cantrell eventually gets up and says, hey, do you want to get something? Tabari sits down. He gets into this clown act with joking with her every 5 seconds about everything. And Venetia actually says that some of that is cute, but some of it is a turn off to her because it's giving like light idiot. And I couldn't agree more. So Zadia is, nervous. She's waiting on Cam. She's a little pissed off because Cam is not there yet. She did say that Cam told her he was going to be late because he had to work. And she is worried about where that stands. Tamika comes over and starts talking to her. And she basically says that, the lateness issue is something for her that she's worried about. Will this continue to happen once they're in a relationship? Yes, he says he wants to adjust his life, but is it getting to the point that he doesn't have room for her? And she also doesn't want it to be a resentful situation. I love how she identifies something like that can happen in a relationship where you end up dating someone and when they feel like they have to adjust their life too much for you, or maybe as they're adjusting their life, something doesn't go through, then they feel like, okay, I'm constantly making these concessions for you. She doesn't want him to grow upset with her about the fact that he has to adjust to be there for her and then being the only one to be there for him. I thought this was a good point for Zadia to bring up, and I'm actually happy that she addressed this. Ashley, honey, is sitting down with Zadia later on in the party, and Zadia says that she is not just unhappy that Cam isn't there, but that Kirsten hasn't showed up. And Ashley did invite Kirsten. She invited Don afterwards, but she's pissed and she hasn't heard from Kirsten. So they both sitting there dateless. And all of a sudden, who comes walking through that door, honey, but Don? Don showed up. He showed up and showed up for our girl Ashley. He comes walking down the stairs, live loud and in color, honey, in that pink shirt. And he came and he gave Ashley a hug, told her she looked like a beef patty. He couldn't wait to hug her. He spun her around. He gave her all of the affirmational love, the affirmational joy that Ashley really has been wanting this entire season. He tells her he missed her. She looks good. And you could just tell that that's her love language. And that she's been waiting for somebody to connect with that. And then probably within the time frame that they've been talking, they've been building that over the phone. And his pure joy to see her made her super excited. And he grabs her and spins her around, and everybody at the party is mesmerized by the fact that he is so into her at that moment. And you could tell that Ashley's been waiting for that this entire season. So Sharice's date, Mizell, like I said, he's the only one that showed up with a present, honey. And so he is in my top for her, simply because he showed up for a present for Zadia for her birthday. That was just what, classy and thinking of the person that was actually having the birthday party, because almost everybody else showed up empty-handed and just said hello and happy birthday. He is charismatic. He's working the room. He's respectful to everyone. He's holding very good conversation. And he's also holding Sharice's attention. Mizell sits down and discusses with Sharice what he's looking for in a woman. And he says he wants somebody that's secure in who she is. He wants somebody who's confident, who loves on herself first, and who cares about herself first, because that will make him like her more, because he will be into her because she's into herself. She's happy in who she is, and that will make her want to make her man happy. Sharice says she couldn't agree more, and she wants the same thing with a man in return. She wants it to be easy, and in order for it to be easy, it needs to be with somebody who is loving on themselves, happy in their life, and that way you just want to make that other person happy. It all sounds beautiful in eternal love, honey. We know that that's not how real life works all the time. But I do understand the importance of the self-love part, because we're seeing that play out with Ashley and her situation, and how when you do have some insecurities that you haven't worked on, it ends up falling out in a relationship, and it ends up sometimes damaging something that you can't come back from. So it's good self-love energy. And, Sharice is saying that that's what she wants in a partner. And so far, Danzy is trying to present that to her. He is the worst type of person that you want in an event, honey, because he is turning into a lush all over the room, which was really, really embarrassing. So Danzy sits down with Sharice. They sort of having this conversation, and he just is getting really, really seriously stupid. It's clear that he's been drinking. He's giving lush energy. Why you got to play the alky role at somebody else's party? And it's absolutely nuts, because Sharice definitely wanted to like him. But I think a lot of his energy is salesperson energy. He then starts to speak to her in French. She asks him, what does that mean? He says, I have absolutely no idea. Honey, he has had a few bottles. I don't even think at this point he's had a few glasses of the wine. He's been moving all around that room with a cup every time he go with some ice. And it's showing up in the multiple interactions he's having with people where he's loud and he's extra. And it's like, sir, you don't know any of these people. Why are you showing your ass like this? So Sharice is not feeling that. This is a weird thing. These people are strangers to you. You're here as a result of me. Like, why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? So, it gets more and more embarrassing. She's like, I gotta walk away from this. And she goes to sit back down with Mizell. So finally, Ashley is having her conversation um, with Don, and then Sharice and Mizell is sitting down, and they're just having a really good conversation. And Mizell is like, look, I ain't got no competition based off of the dude that you messing with. And he just talks about how, he's really enjoying his time with Sharice. He really digs her. He has brought her up to other people in his life. So, he's like, this is a positive thing. Ashley then sits down. I'm sorry. Sharice then sits down with Mizell, and Mizell is also sitting around her and Don. I mean, Sharice is sitting down with Mizell, and they're sitting around Don and Ashley, and they have this conversation about Ashley being, you know, really cool and secure, and how Sharice is the exact same way. And Danzy says, I said Denzel. Y'all need to catch me down these comments every time I be making these mistakes, honey. So Danzy's sitting down. He says that he likes Sharice. He likes that she's secure in herself. He likes that she's not, somebody who's insecure, but she's relatively humble. Sharice is annoyed by him. So it doesn't matter at this point what he's saying out his mouth. Everything about her wants to get away from him because he's been drinking. He basically says that she's relatively humble because she started off with the whole, I could be a lot energy. And you can just tell he's reacting to her based off of how drunk he is. And she's not feeling that situation. She's getting more and more annoyed by him, and it's making her not want to be around him. So she kind of dismisses him and then goes back with Mizell. And Mizell is like, look, I seen my competition and I am not fretted at all. We go back over to Venetia. She's sitting with Tabari. He's still acting like a clown. Cantrella's sitting there just eating on this piece of chicken the whole time he's sitting next to him, as Tabari keeps making these little corny jokes, try to get Venetia to, let's escape away. And Venetia's not really feeling the situation, but she's also not feeling that Cantrella's so quiet. I think Cantrell, outside of being nervous, is just the type of guy that probably is easier with the one-on-one. And having Tabari like kind of compete with her is not a vibe that she is fully feeling. So you got that going on. Either way, all the women in the room are interacting but Zadia, because Cam is still not here. Zadia is not feeling it. She's very pissed. It's her party. She can cry if she wants to. And it's her party. And it's upsetting that she's the only one that's not linked up with her guy. Cameron is still not there. It's making her wonder if, this is going to be an issue for them. And this could be the thing that finally gets her to start looking at other people. So, she's pissed. She's eating pie. She's standing there, and that door is still empty, honey. Meanwhile, Budweiser Bob is all the way around the room annoying everybody. That is the end of this episode. However, next week, it's the next season. Honey, it feels like we get into the end, but we know we're not there yet. Next week, we're going to see if Zadia and Cam can figure this situation out. They go on more blind dates, just more and more men. Ashley is going to have a sit down with Kirsten to say, hey, why didn't you even show up for me like you said you were supposed to? Charisse hopefully is going to kick Budweiser Bob to the curb. And it looks like Mizell, Charisse's other hookup, has asked Venetia out when they were on the rooftop, and he's been texting her. So let me know what y'all think of this episode. Sorry it was so late. Y'all know I got a lot going on with my tests and my exams and all that kind of stuff. But I love y'all. I will see you on the next one. I'm going to drop some more stuff this week. So look out for that. Happy Turkey Day. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.